90% of students who miss a lesson do not get a makeup lesson, and nobody complains about it. So the problem kind of solved itself. Welcome to Coffee Chat number 8. I'm so glad to have you here this month, and we are talking about boundaries today. I know that you all are probably just as busy as I am, and boundaries are so important. Boundaries with ourselves, boundaries with our business, boundaries with those around us. That's what we're talking about today. I'm excited to share some of the boundaries that I have been working on over the past couple of years, and hopefully I can inspire you to maybe look at a part of your life that is overwhelming you, make some small changes to live a better life. So here's my life in a nutshell, and I think it'd be really cool if some of you in the comments put your life in a nutshell as well. Here's what we got. I run a studio of about 50 piano students. I have this YouTube channel, and we post about 7 videos a month. I said we, but it's all me. I have a blog and an email newsletter that I send out about once a week. I create digital products for music teachers that I sell on Teachers by Teachers and Etsy and all the marketing that goes along with that. I am launching my own supplemental method book for piano students this year. It's going to be a series of writing books and technique books. And I don't know if I've ever mentioned this on this channel, but I do actually have like a regular person job too. So my part-time job, which is like computer work, is between 5 hours and 35 hours a week, depending on how busy a time of year it is. And then I'm a single mom of 1. I feel like I'm missing something, but we'll just call that's good enough. That's my list. So what's your list? Maybe you can relate to some of those, or at least the sheer amount of things, plates that you have swirling in the air. Spinning. That's the word spinning. So grab a delicious beverage of your choosing, and let's chat. So I'm going to start with boundaries surrounding my teaching hours. So boundary number 1 is that I now schedule no lessons after 8 p.m. My days just go better, and I'm just in a better mood if I go to bed a little bit earlier and I wake up a little bit earlier. So even if it means that I can't give a student their ideal time, my cutoff point is 8 p.m. My sentences don't make any sense after 8 p.m. anyways, so I'm actually a better teacher for it too. The other change to my schedule that I made a couple years ago was to revamp my schedule so that I could pick up my daughter from school, take her to her sports, and pick her up from her sports practice. I used to hire this out because I thought I need to get as many students into this limited teaching hours as I can, but then I realized that I was missing out on the most important thing in my life. So why hire out the thing that I would rather be doing to do the thing that I think is going to make me the most money or make my customers happy? So I had to flip those priorities around. So now sometimes I have to give a student a time that is not their ideal time because I need to pick up my daughter at their ideal time, whatever the case may be. But it all worked out, and now she gets to see my face instead of a stranger's face picking her up from school, and she is a happier kid because of it too. The other thing I did 2 years ago when I raised my prices quite a bit is that I reduced my yearly teaching weeks to 40 weeks. So I teach lessons 40 weeks out of the 52 weeks in the year. And honestly, I used to teach like 50 weeks a year. I used to not stop for anything. It was like, if it isn't Christmas Day or New Year's Day, because I was just like, gotta make the money. But I think that the parents appreciate this. I'm able to charge a higher rate per lesson for my time, but the parents pay less per month because over the course of the year, we take more breaks. So for spring break, we take 2 weeks off. In the summer, we take more than 2 weeks off. Christmas, we take 2 weeks off. And so it just gives me more flexibility to work on the other parts of my life, my other business. It gives me a break so that I'm a better teacher. Oh, let me tell you how much difference those breaks make. I come back, yes, highly recommend. And this also gives me like more flexibility. So if I want to reschedule a lesson that I have to cancel last minute or something like that, I've got that free week just sitting there ready to go where it's not a major holiday or anything, and we can just shift things over to that week. So it gives me more flexibility in the schedule as well and helps me serve the students better. The other boundary I set last year is to not accept any new students. As tempting as it is, because anyone who comes to me, like my heart just wants to help them learn the piano. But right now I'm not accepting any new students. Even if I have an opening, right now I'm not accepting new students because it's gonna make scheduling easier in the next semester. So that might not go on forever, but I hardly ever have students quit. And so right now that's a boundary that I'm setting so that I can have a little more flexibility in my schedule. And the last boundary in this category, and this is probably the biggest one, a couple of years ago, I stopped rescheduling makeup lessons. It was starting to get out of hand. I've always wanted to serve my customers best I can, and I don't mind giving makeup lessons at all, but it got to a point where I was getting snarky messages from parents that would say things like, "You still owe us a lesson from last year." And I was like, excuse me, I don't owe you a lesson because you missed a lesson. What started as a courtesy started to become like a policy in people's minds where they felt that they were owed something. They either wanted their money back or they wanted that makeup lesson. And when I say that they were contacting me months later to get that makeup lesson, don't think I didn't try to schedule a makeup lesson. I did. I would try, can you come this day? No, we can't come that day. Can you come this day? Or sometimes we would even schedule a makeup lesson. They wouldn't come to it. And then they would want another one later, even if they didn't tell me they weren't going to show up. Like it was getting ridiculous where I was like, okay, this is not okay. Something needs to change here. I would also have people like send me back the invoice when it would send out and they would be like, you need to reduce this because we missed a lesson last month. And I was like, no. And like, this was never a part of my policy. It was just like a thing I did to be nice, but now people are walking all over me because I did that. So maybe you've experienced that too with your students, but here's how I changed it. I completely changed the wording of my policies. I made my policies so strict that no one could come after me, and my courtesy was going to be a true courtesy. So my policies say there are no makeup lessons, there are no reschedules, there are no credits, you will not get any money back. Like they're pretty harshly worded. I'm a nice person, but my policies are not nice if you read them. I actually have a Canva template that's free that actually has the wording of my policies. I'll throw that in the description if you want to read it or steal it or whatever. So I made my policies so strict and I made everybody sign it. Old students, new students, everybody signed it because I wanted them to come in with a feeling of I'm not owed anything if I miss a lesson. Now that being said, now I add some makeup slots to my music staff calendar. So I'll put in some slots like if I have an opening during the week or if there's a break and I just want to designate one of those days as makeup lessons. So I'll just put a bunch of slots in there that are open. So people know that if they miss a lesson, they can go in and reserve a makeup time on my calendar. I will not accept requests for other times that are not on the calendar. And if people do say, hey, can you teach me a lesson on Friday? First of all, no, Fridays are my day off. Absolutely not. But that's not what I say. I say, oh, actually, I do have some openings this month. If you want to check out the calendar on my music staff, feel free to reserve whichever one you would like. Because some people will just text me all day instead of, logging on to my music staff. So here's the result of this switch in makeup lesson policy wording and whatnot. 90% of students who miss a lesson do not get a makeup lesson, and 90% of my openings on the calendar stay open, and nobody complains about it. They understand that there is a possibility for a makeup lesson. And if they really wanted to go on and find one, they could, but they don't. So the problem kind of solved itself. I give the occasional makeup lesson for those really dedicated parents who want to go on the calendar and find something. And some of them do, but most of them just, that's okay. They pay for it and they move on. Ugh, brilliant. That is like one major stressor off my plate. So I highly recommend doing some sort of shift like that if you are spending hours going back and forth through text or email trying to schedule these makeup lessons. Oh, that was the worst. What a waste of time. I felt like that was a waste of time. Oh, one more general studio boundary that I've done is I only have one recital date. So I do split my students into small groups because I like the recitals to be short and sweet, but it's all in the same day. It's all in one afternoon. Years ago, I used to schedule 3 different recital dates. Can you even imagine? I don't know how I did that. It would be like one Thursday evening and then one Saturday morning and then one Sunday afternoon. And I would like get all dressed up those 3 days. And no. One recital day, if you can come, you can come. If you can't, sorry. But now let's talk about like some admin boundaries. Admin boundary number 1, I stopped getting email notifications on my phone. I did this about 1.5 years ago. I don't know why I didn't do it earlier. This is the best decision that I have made. So my business inbox does not come to my phone. Now, if I'm on the road and I need to access it, I can get to it, but I don't get any notifications that I have a new email in either of my business inboxes. That keeps the desk work at the desk. Now, if you run a piano teaching business, you might be thinking, that's great, but people are always texting me at inconvenient hours of the night, asking me questions about makeup lessons and Johnny lost his theory book and whatever. I hear you. I get that too. I like to remind myself that I'm a piano teacher and there is no such thing as a piano emergency. It literally does not exist. So don't let anyone corner you into responding to something immediately when it's not your designated working hours. So I've tried to shift my customers, my families, my students away from texting me as much as possible. Now, I wish that I would have foreseen this years ago. I would have onboarded new students with some sort of wording like this. These are my office hours and I will respond to emails during this time. If you have an urgent question, an email is not accessible to you, you may text me at this number, but please avoid texting whenever possible. I don't know, is that too harsh? Something like that. And then I would say something like, text received after 8 p.m. will be responded to the next day or something like that. I don't know. So I think people want to respond to us in a way that's convenient to us. I feel like people have our best interests at heart and they really mean well. But if they're not like an entrepreneur or a business owner, they probably don't understand how much I do not want to get a business question on Sunday at 7:30 a.m., right? So here's how I'm handling that, having never asked people not to text me previously. I don't want to make people feel bad for texting me because they're not doing anything wrong. It's just not my preferred way to communicate with my students. So here's what I do. Let's say somebody texts me at 9 p.m. on a Saturday night. I do not text them back. I wait until my next office hours, which would be like late morning on Monday. And then I will send them an email and I'll say, I received your question about this. I'm responding to email because I find it easier to communicate this way or something like that. I don't even say, please don't text me. I just shift the conversation over to email. And if you do that a couple of times, they'll get it. They'll be like, okay, she likes email. Cool. So that's what I've been doing. And then the other thing that I've been doing is, because I wear many hats even when I'm sitting at my desk during work hours, is I check my studio email at a designated time. So I do not check my studio email as soon as I sit down at my desk. I pick a time when I'm going to check it. Because if you check your email before you're ready to work on that area of your business, then those things are just going to be sitting in your mind, bothering you. How am I going to handle that situation? I'm not going to do it till this afternoon, but how am I going to handle it? And now it's just taking up space in your brain. On most days, I either wait until 10 a.m. or until noon to check my studio email. And then right when I check my email, I have a solid 20-minute block to work on any admin stuff. So if a bunch of stuff comes up in my email box that I need to take care of, I have the time to do it right then and there. And the other boundary in this category that I've done is to either automate or eliminate as many admin tasks as I can do. I used to I used to handwrite invoices back in the day when I first started my home studio. So this was 10 years ago. I used to handwrite an invoice and hand it to the parents every single month. I bet if I looked hard enough, I still have those carbon copies of those somewhere. And people would write me checks. That's how old school we were. But now with my music staff, I wasn't taking advantage of the auto send invoices, but a couple of years ago, I decided to switch from a per lesson tuition structure to a per month tuition structure. The tuition is set for the year and then it's divided into equal monthly payments. So whether we have 3 lessons in a month or 5 lessons in a month, people are still paying the same amount. And I set the invoices to go out 7 days before the month is done, and then the payment is due by the 7th of the following month. I used to check all these with my own eyes and send them out manually because I was so nervous that the system was going to have something wrong, because sometimes it does. Like sometimes it will like double charge for something, or I don't know. It's usually my error, but there might be something wrong in the invoice. And I was just like crippled with fear that I was going to send out an invoice with something wrong. But I had to let go of that fear. And I now have the invoices send out. Every so often there's a discrepancy of like, I don't know, barely ever though. And then I can just say, I'm so sorry the system sent out this invoice. It was not correct. It should actually be this. No big deal. Like nobody set my house on fire over it. And honestly, like 99% of the invoices that go out are correct. People pay, no problem. So I automated the invoice creation, the invoices being emailed out. And I also automated late payment notifications and a late fee added. So that takes like hours off of my plate every month. And then I noticed that I was creating tasks for myself by maybe sending too many emails instead of condensing something down into a template, or other tasks that I was doing to prepare for a lesson that when I really thought about it, I thought the helpfulness of the end result does not outweigh the hours that I'm putting into it. So I need to either simplify this task, automate this task, or just let it go. So those are like the studio boundaries specifically. But now let's talk about like some general time entrepreneurial boundaries. This is a recent one. I stopped working at 8 p.m. I used to sit at my desk after my daughter would go to bed, after I was done teaching, and I would work on my side job or whatever until like 11, 12, 1, 2. I don't do that anymore. And this is really, really hard for me. It is hard for me to relax. But after 8 p.m., no more work. Shut the computer, go away from the desk, go to a different part of the house. So that is a big one for me. And I've given myself permission to say no to anything extra, because when you make your own schedule, it's really tempting to just say yes, because people are like, oh, could you volunteer at this thing at 10 a.m.? Could you come to this meeting at 1 p.m.? And like, I don't have a job during the day, so I can, but sis, I got a lot on my to-do list. I can't, I am working. So I need to set those boundaries of like, actually, here's what I love to say to people. I'm like, actually, I have 3 jobs and I'm a single mom. So no, I don't think I'll be able to do that. And when people hear the 3 jobs thing, they're like, oh, okay, got it. And the other thing that I've been doing just in my personal work time is I've been giving myself a time limit on certain tasks. Parkinson's law says that your work will fill up the time you give it to fill up. And there are certain creative tasks that I want to take all the time in the world. Like the method books that I'm creating, could spend all day, all night on those. Perfecting it, moving things around, rewording things. But there are certain tasks that A, I don't really enjoy. B, if it didn't happen, no one would die. And 3, I might be kind of putsy about getting it done. Or 4, I might be a perfectionist about, because sometimes that happens. So with those kind of tasks, I like to give myself a time limit. I'm going to work on this for 45 minutes, and wherever it's at 45 minutes, that's where it's going to be. I'll hit send, or I'll hit print, or I'll hit post, or whatever after the 45 minutes is done. So it helps me get to what I need to do, prioritize a little bit better, and not nitpick over things or suddenly add on a bunch of tasks that I didn't really need to add on, stuff like that. So that's been good. And the other thing I've been doing is I've been stopping mid-task, writing down a note of where I'm going to start, and then coming back to it tomorrow. And the 8 p.m. cutoff thing has really helped me do that. But I heard this, I forget who it was, but somebody talking about productivity, and they were talking about how studies have shown that if you leave something mid-sentence and come back to it, that it's going to be so much easier to get into the flow of it. And so I was like, oh, I never thought about that, because I'm always trying to complete, either complete the whole project or complete the mini task that I'm on right now, so that when I come back next day, I can start on a new task. But honestly, this has worked better. So I just stop wherever I am. And if it's in the middle of a task, even better, because then when I sit down to come back at it, our brains want to complete, we want to finish. And so I'll just jump right in, because I know exactly what needs to be done. And while I'm finishing that mini task, my brain is already working on what needs to happen next. So it cuts down on that decision fatigue where you're what to do next. So that's really been helping. Okay, I have 2 more boundaries to share with you, and these are like more general existential things in my life that I've been working on and thinking about. Number 1, I've been deciphering what areas of my life need discipline and what areas of my life need grace, because often I think I get them mixed up. So things that need discipline are getting to bed on time and getting up in the morning, getting outside for a walk, doing my workout, eating protein in the morning, or eating vegetables or whatever. Like, those are the things that I know I might not want to do, but if I do them, my day's gonna go better. So those need the discipline of like, it doesn't matter, Phoenix, if you want to do it or you don't want to do it, you're gonna do it. However, some of the parts of my life need grace, as in my creative projects are gonna flow so much better if I'm just vibing with that topic or that task at that moment. So those sorts of things, I need to lay off the discipline a little bit. Because if I force a creative project, if I force even like an email in some cases, or if I force a writing project or something like that, it's not gonna be its best and it's gonna feel like running through sand. But if I just set it aside to the next day and I'm feeling it and the inspiration is coming, the ideas are flowing, the words are coming, then I'm gonna get it done quicker. It's gonna turn out 100 times better and it's gonna be fun. And there has to be at least some part of your day that's fun. So I actually did that with this video right here. I had a specific topic that I wanted to talk about, and it's been on my calendar for the coffee chat number 8 since the beginning of the year. I started researching it last week, wasn't getting anywhere with it. I tried again to research it this week, was coming up dry. I was finding myself forcing myself to like try to write out some ideas about what I wanted to talk about. And it was feeling like pulling teeth. Like, it was just not fun like researching usually is for me. So I woke up this morning thinking, I've got to film that video today. And I don't even really know what I'm going to talk about on that topic. First, I told myself, that's not going to be a good video. Don't do it. Don't even do it. Right away this morning, I made the decision I wasn't even going to make this video. I'm like, nobody's going to want to watch it if you're just forcing yourself to talk about something you don't feel like talking about because you think that you should. So let's not even do it. No one will even notice. And then as I was driving in the car, the inspiration for this topic just came to me. So I came home, made my coffee, sat down, I scribbled out some notes. It took me like 3 minutes because it was just all in my head, and I just put it down on the screen and I just started filming. Boundaries in action. So once I let myself off the hook, then the inspiration just came. And that's usually how it works. Okay, the last thing that I want to mention is I've been working on honoring energy drainers. Okay, here's the thing. I'm a piano teacher. But to be very honest, as an introvert, teaching piano lessons drains my energy. And I have to accept that. So what I was doing before is I was forcing myself to get all this work done after teaching. And what I found was I'm a better teacher if I know that after that last lesson leaves my home, I get to do something that is totally relaxing and helps me shake off the anxiety that I just feel being around humans in general. The thing that I was getting caught up on is I was like, if something drains my energy, it's something I don't like. And I would not want to admit that I don't like teaching piano lessons. That would be pretty disheartening, but that's not the case. Something can drain your energy, but you like doing it. So now that I understand that, because other things that drain my energy are like going to the store, ew, no thanks. Like going to a party, whew. So I just couldn't connect that something I love to do that was my life goal, my passion, was also an energy drainer. But now that I understand that, now I just plan for it. So I need some me time, some alone time before I teach lessons. And then after my last lesson, I need a little alone time to recoup my energy. Understanding that has been life-changing, because if I try to rush right before my lessons or I try to work right after my lessons, I start to think that I don't like teaching, but it's actually just that I've lined up too many energy draining activities right in a row without any energy filling activities thrown in there. So let me know in the comments which of these you can relate most to, or if there's one you think you might try. Also, if I've missed a boundary that you want to mention for the group, please leave that in the comments as well. I love these coffee chats and I love connecting with the community. Thank you so much for listening and for participating. I love you all. Until the next one.